All right. Let me go ahead and read something before I get started, right? And it's going to tie into Charlie Kirk's rhetoric, white racist conservative. All right. But let me tackle something real fast. All right, give me a second. Let me tackle something. Okay, this is going to tie into, okay, let me stop this. I forgot. Okay, I didn't see that. Man, I researched so much. It said I got to start a whole new thread. Okay, fine. I'll do a whole new thread. All right, so let's go here real fast. And again, this is going to tie into Charlie Kirk's bullshit. Let me throw an alley to you real fast. Some great folks in FBA history. I feel like, man, the control F button gonna work. Okay. All right, family, let's do this. Yeah, I know sometimes I like to read along. I like to read with you. So, who is Tunis Campbell? Born April 1st, 1812. You see that? 1812 in New Jersey. Yes, sir. Free black man. So he's born a free black man. Died December 4th, 1891. He got his citizenship. Roles: minister, educator, abolitionist, landowner, and Georgia state senator during Black Reconstruction, FBA Reconstruction. His rise to power. Campbell was well educated when 1812. Well, of course not then, but he was born in 1812 and was well educated. So when these conservatives act like all of a sudden we got ADHD, all of us, and got low IQs all of a sudden out of nowhere, is hilarious. Okay. So he was well educated and became active in Black self determination after the Civil War. Okay. In Georgia, he helped establish Black run governments on the Sea Islands and mainland areas, including McIntosh and Liberty counties. He created schools, courts, and militias to protect freedmen from white supremacist violence. Oh, we fight. Oh, we fight to protect from white supremacist violence. Wealth and land. Tunis Campbell acquired land legally in Georgia and helped other freedmen acquire it too. Okay, he helped others. Each one teach one. He operated self-sufficient FBA communities, Black foundational Black American communities, where foundational Black Americans could own land, farm, get educated, and govern themselves. Uh-oh. But check this out. White backlash and economic sabotage. So this is what Charlie Kirk want us to ignore. He want Americans to ignore. White backlash and economic sabotage. His power infuriated white supremacists, especially the KKK and Democrats. He was falsely imprisoned, targeted, poisoned, and harassed constantly. Eventually, white supremacist forces took back power, and Campbell's land and economic base were stripped from him. After years of persecution, Campbell died financially ruined, and Charlie Kirk believes that's just tough luck. What happened to his wealth and family? Because of the political repression and systematic targeting, his family was not able to maintain or pass on his wealth. That's the name of the game, family, with systemic racism, is to not let our worth transfer. Some is saying that's why they attacked Cosby, Diddy, and all these big tycoons. But obviously, a lot of them put their own foot in their mouths. Okay. So there's no documented evidence of major estates or inherited wealth being passed down through his descendants. His descendants likely faced Jim Crow laws, segregation, and economic exclusion, like many other foundational Black families in the South. South, not the North, where it's safe. Tunis Campbell was a real one, a powerful Black man, foundational Black man, running parts of Georgia after slavery. He bought land, built schools, created black governments, and what they were not corrupt like a lot of these other folks in their countries. And white folks came down on him hard. They locked him up, stole his land, and left his family with nothing to carry on. His story shows exactly how Black wealth, power were crushed, not by laziness, but by white sabotage, as we know oh so often over here. And dig, we definitely don't let none of us forget. We gotta never forget thing too that I'm trying to help push. Okay. So let's go with Charlie Kirk now. Let's hear this BS. So listen to the question, family. This damn devil.
Hey, my name is Blair. Just got a question for you here. How do you feel about the Black community receiving reparations?
I'm against that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why so?
Well, first of all, what is the Black community? So, for example, do you mean like recent immigrants from Haiti or Nigeria?
I do not. No.
Okay, for sure. So you're meaning like.
And so even white people know to delineate when it comes to something exclusively for foundation Black Americans. They want to make sure that non-FBA Blacks are being anchored in on what's exclusively deserving to us, because nobody want to pay more out to folks who are undeserving, right? Insurance companies will do the same thing. They want to know who are the parties involved. If there's a car accident, they want to know who was in the car. People, the bystanders are not getting paid, all right? If there were some payouts to be paid out. So we got Donnie, we got Urban, we got Rico, 420 Claw. Let's get it.
Ancestral descendants of slaves.
Correct.
That could be proven with documentation.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. So to be consistent, do you believe?
See? That can be proven. That they know. They know that our lineages can be proven with documentation. That's why he said that. One more time.
What is the Black community? So, for example, do you mean like recent immigrants from Haiti or Nigeria?
I do not. No.
Okay, for sure. So you're meaning like ancestral descendants of slaves.
Correct.
That could be proven with documentation.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
So see, they know, family. Don't let these white supremacists and tethers try to tell you different. They know it's about documentation, and it can be proven easily.
To be consistent, do you believe that other groups that have been mistreated in America should also receive reparations?
Okay. So this is so get used to these talking points. So this is fact. Well, see, for me, the way I would answer that is, listen, if other groups feel like they were wrong, then they need to state their own case. I don't feel anyway towards them. They gotta represent themselves. Okay, so my feelings on them means nothing. How do they feel about themselves, and do they have cases representing themselves? That's all. That's how I answer that.
What are those other groups?
Well, they're not necessarily by America, but let's just take one. Jewish Americans, right? Okay. They almost got eliminated in the Holocaust. Should they receive reparations?
Not from us.
Okay, not from us.
Not from the United States, that is.
Okay.
Okay, so he said, do they deserve reparations? Just like family. Well, evidently, Germany was paying reparations. They won their case.
So here's my view, and I want to hear yours, which is that I did not own slaves, and you were not a slave.
Correct.
Right. So we are individuals, and therefore we cannot be held accountable or should receive something from something that didn't happen to us or something we did not do.
Okay, so he got to explain the Italians getting reparations in America when they were lynched by like a thousand white folks came down to where was that? Where was that? Was it Massachusetts? No, New Orleans. When those white folks, when those Italians got acquitted in court for allegedly murdering a couple sheriffs, and when they got acquitted, shit, man, that white crowd, that white mob, racist crowd came down there in the thousands and lynched some Italians. By the way, they got reparations. They got reparations. They didn't get reparations themselves. They were dead. Okay, but their descendants did, or loved ones got reparations on their behalf. So I just cooked this point right there.
That is a basic law of justice, that I can't be held accountable for something that somebody looked like me did, and you should not benefit from something that somebody you were related to. Now, you'll probably say systemic racism and how that passed down through generations. Happy to address that. The problem with reparations, though, is basically what you're saying is I'm going to take money from Charlie Kirk for something he didn't do and give it to a group of something, to somebody of something they also didn't do. For what reason? How is that just?
So not so much how is it just, but there are those arguments that says because of what happened in the past, this group of people have been negatively affected from this nation's crimes against humanity to that certain group of people. And that's how we see it, or how some people see it, if you will.
Okay, sure. But I will say that even if there is some truth to that, which I wouldn't even be willing to grant very much, because Black America was doing incredibly well before the not incredible. They were pacing to be even richer than white America. Is that
okay? So this argument is so silly, it's so goofy, and that's why white supremacists are the dumbest class of white folks in the country and the world. Look, if we're doing great in spite of systemic racism, that doesn't mean we're better off with systemic racism. That just means that we're thriving great under extreme under extreme duress. Like they say, pressure busts pipes. How about people that work in sweatshops, but they also deliver the goods? So you're going to make an argument that, hey, sweatshops are good because these folks are working under those conditions and they're producing quality material, quality work. Well, how about enslaved foundation Black Americans? So slavery is good, right? Because they produce so much labor. So much labor had built the foundation of this country. But weren't all those parties working under extreme violence and duress? So people are being great in spite of. That's not an excuse to say, well, it couldn't have been bad. But this is how they think. This is how they think. Pinky, Tashi D.
We must look to the question of, is it just and moral to take from one group, especially first and second generation immigrants that had nothing to do with this? So think about it. Your tax.
Okay, so now it's about first. At first, he said the people who did the crime, they're not here. The people who received the crime and the violence, they're not here. And now he's switching the argument to immigrants who weren't here, okay, or were not responsible.
Space would be taxing, like if anyone here is Irish or Polish and your family came 100 years ago, we would be taxing people that had nothing to do with it. And I'll go a step further. My family fought on the Union side of the Civil War.
Oh boy. So here we go. So those who did the crime are not here. So in his mind, the statute of limitation, those who were recipients of the crime and the violence, they're not here. So, to him, it's whatever. Then it's the immigrants, and now it's hit the union. People
that had nothing to do with it. And I'll go a step further. My family fought on the Union side of the Civil War, right? So you're going to be taxing Charlie Kirk, whose descendants fought to free the slaves, to go give money to people that were descended, from slaves.
Okay. Listen, he does not believe that lie. He does not believe that his relatives, ancestors, had fought for the freedom of Foundation Black Americans. They know they're lying, okay? They were stopping the South from seceding. Okay, they were trying to save the Union. And to save the Union, what they did was they emancipated us and they allowed us to fight in the war to stop the South from seceding. But you can't have us fight in a war. You can't allow us to fight in a war if we're technically enslaved. Okay? So you had to free us because you had to incentivize us to go out there and do something. And now we're fighting, right? But that was to preserve the Union. That was to preserve the United States and help them expand to the West. It had nothing to do with freeing Foundation Black Americans, okay? Nothing to do with that. But when white folks tell that lie, especially conservatives, alt-right, people like him, far-right, they're lying. Now, you got the lily stupid whites that might believe this, but whites like him, he knows he's lying.
So what is a way that we could try to help all communities? Here's maybe we can find some common ground, right? Instead of reparations.
Sure.
Is that we need to break the cartel of public sector teacher unions, allow school choice to occur, and make it easier for people.
Okay, so now these are all white supremacist talking points. I'm not saying good or bad, by the way, because I really didn't look into these talking points, so I'm not shooting them down. I'm just letting you know that a lot of white supremacists, this is what they say. I don't know if it's good or bad. I couldn't tell you. I haven't researched these talking points, but look at what he's going to slip in at the end. Watch this.
People of all backgrounds, but specifically Hispanic and Black individuals and young kids to have a quality education, because a good education in K through 12 is one of the most assured ways that they'll be able to succeed later in life. Secondly, we need to put fathers back in the home.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, there, and look now, look at the coon in the back. I agree.
Ways that they'll be able to succeed later in life. Secondly, we need to put fathers back in the home.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with that. First of all, dude, you took him out the home. You took him out the home during slavery. You took him out the home during Jim Crow. Okay, convict leasing, sharecropping. You put him out there to work. And then you took him out the home by falsely jailing them, murdering, 100 years of lynching. And then you took him out the home by the contraband and all that stuff with the drugs flooding the neighborhoods. And then you took him out the home again with mass incarceration. Mass incarceration. So they kill me when they say the father's not in the home. You'll hear Larry Elder say that. You will hear Thomas Sowell, like all the daddy, say that. And you took him out the home, though. Unfair sentencing. You took him out the home. I forgot. The Man in the House Act, when they were given ADC, aid to dependent children, that was before welfare. AFDC, aid to family dependent children. So these welfare assistance programs, the man couldn't be in the house. So when I say you, I'm talking about white supremacists and systemic racism. You guys consistently took the black father out the house. Different strategies, but also you took him out the house by not employing them. Wages very low, therefore can't take care of his family. What quality woman would take on a man who cannot take care of the family financially? Okay, can't put food on the table, can't pay bills, can't pay the mortgage, can't pay the light bill. So yeah, that compromises marriage. So now people just have fun, boy toys, girl toys. That's going to happen now because they don't see themselves as worthy partners, because some people can't fulfill the end of the bargain. So they'll just have flings, reckless sex. All right. Stop me when I'm lying.
That's 70% of black kids are raised without a stable father in the country. So if we can find common ground on that, I think that would go a lot further than just giving cash for people that happen to be related to something evil that happened a little while ago.
What's going on, man? Doing all right. Welcome to Knoxville. I'm up here for one purpose. My buddy is a friend.
Now, these guys worship Charlie Kirk. Like I don't get why black people. Now, I don't know if they're foundational or non. It doesn't matter. If they're not black conservatives, which they probably are, but if they're not, I don't see the obsession that they have with Charlie Kirk. Dude is not brilliant at all. Dude is dumb. Just like Candace, dumb.
Of yours, he lives up in White Pine, and he wants me to have this discussion with you because me and him had this discussion this weekend. What are your thoughts about reparations for Black people specifically, and like Black Americans specifically? What is your
Very much against.
Very much against. Can I ask?
I keep dropping
why?
this damn phone, man.
Well, first and foremost, I don't believe that we should ever pay monetary damages to people where nothing bad happened to them, just because they are related to a group of people where something bad
I'm going to respond to that.
happened to them.
Okay, so
Because it separates the
Again,
idea. Let me just finish, and then I'll throw it back to you. Our justice system, when properly understood, is about individuals receiving justice, not tribes or groups receiving justice.
Also, I want to state that just because I am a Black man, I do not speak for all Black people. So I'm just this.
I like this guy. You should give it up for him.
Just want to state that for the record. I'm speaking for
these Charlie Clerks. I mean, these Charlie Kirks. These lateral crowders, they're not smart. They just well reversed on alt-right talking points, and then they stage debates like this and try to look smart, try to sound smart.
for myself. So all right, so definitely hear you on that. And even for me, when it comes to reparations, for me personally, I don't believe that it should be a check. I think that reparations can look like many different things, whether it's like investment in institutions, more like better schools, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. So
and look, now he think he kicking. I don't think it should be his check. Again, who knows? Maybe foundational, maybe not. I ain't judging. He ain't on trial. But I'm just saying, it's just stupid regardless. Like, dude, what are you talking about? No check. Why no check?
My question to you is like, so since you are against reparations, would you say that we should be would you be for outlawing inherited wealth? Does that make sense?
Well, I'm not for outlawing that. And those are two different things.
Can I explain my point though? All right, so my point to that is that, okay, so what I hear for the argument against reparations is that, okay, Black people today, obviously we weren't there, forced slavery, segregation, all of that kind of stuff. So we've done nothing to deserve that, because all the people who probably should have gotten it, actually not even probably, who should have gotten it are, either long gone or whatever. Now there's still some who are still with us today, but that's a conversation for another day. But my point is that, so inherited wealth is something that, the great grandfather, whatever, is passed down. Homeboy who is here today did nothing to deserve that multi-billion-dollar business, but he gets it because of his bloodline. Correct? Is that how it?
Yeah,
that's how inheritance works, right?
Yeah, no, like Bronny James is going to get $1 billion.
Right? Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. Sorry. Great example. So what I'm saying?
Now he compares it to LeBron James. I'm telling you, these guys, or Bronny James, these guys are very dumb, hateful, and disrespectful.
And is that like? But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I believe that reparations in and of itself, one, I don't think that the argument is formed right, and two, I believe that it's kind of a reverse inheritance, if that makes sense, where it's like where it's like, yes, Black people, like me personally, yes, I did not have to suffer through Jim Crow, slavery, or whatever, but all those choices that were made in those times have gotten necessarily me to where I'm at now.
Got it. So let me tell you where we have a difference of opinion.
Wait, but you are being denied loans. You are facing discrimination. You are racial profile. You are dealing with mass incarceration, if not directly, indirectly through a family or relative, family member, relative, friend. You're watching FBAs get slaughtered by police officers in the street, by getting slaughtered by regular vigilantes like Zimmerman in the streets. Yeah, so the trauma continues.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we as conservatives tend to underemphasize this idea of many legacies of suffering, whereas people on the left, not saying you're on the left, but the other perspective.
Definitely not.
No, for sure. But that's fine. No, that's fine. Let's just say the other side of the argument tend to emphasize that you are stuck because of something that happened to you many generations prior.
Listen.
We believe, absent very unique circumstances in the United States of America, that is almost never true. For example, we think every individual should be judged by their own actions, their own character, and their agency. Now, let's play this out, though. You're acting as if, not you, but let's say the argument, because you're coming after this in a great way, there's been no money sent Black America the last 60 years. We have spent over $25 trillion on Black America in 60 years.
Okay, and that, again, just flat out lying. First of all, you guys made it illegal to do that. Okay, you can't do anything race based. So no, DEI, affirmative action, that's not for us, and we benefited very little from it. Okay, we were last in line in all these set asides or equities for all people of color. Okay, no, buddy.
And Black America's poorer than before we started. We're talking about Medicaid, food stamps, we're talking about schools, public housing. The issue is not the amount of money. The issue has instead been a couple things. Number one, it's been the downfall of the black family. And unfortunately,
yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, the more money we've spent on this, we've seen the downfall of the black family.
Okay, just some numbers. These guys are, I'm telling you, there is no talking to these folks. Yeah, you could debate them, whatever, for fun and entertainment, but there is no talking to them. These guys are delusional and they believe their own lies. The black family just fell, and systemic racism and white supremacists had nothing to do with it. Mass incarceration, that they're just hands off. The Manor House Act, and I kept naming convict leasing, sharecropping, all that parchment farming, slavery, all that, where they constantly took the man out the house. To them, that's not even considered at all. These are sick, mental ill folks, these white supremacists.
Super quick, is that in 1964, right before the passage of the Civil Rights Act, 75% of black youth had a dad around. Now it's 25%.
Okay, here to go with this. Dude, you were passing programs where first of all, you were denying jobs. You were denying opportunity. You were denying equal opportunity. Okay, at that same time you're talking about. A lot of us worked on farms. We worked in the fields, so we didn't qualify for a lot of insurances, government assistance that were being passed, like unemployment insurance, like welfare, and other assistance out there. We didn't qualify because you needed to have a W-2 or some type of paycheck type shit. You had to work in certain fields, and the farmers, the sharecropping, farmer, type field, that did not qualify. And so they purposely looked at what we did, like 90% of us, and said, okay, whatever that is, that's not going to be eligible. So yeah, when you do that, it's hard to have a family. It discourages folks from coming together.
So only 25%. So 1 in 4 kids have a dad around. Black dads are no longer a big part of young kids' life. It's a very big problem that has huge ramifications. Then finally on the reparations.
Okay, so and again, that's another misrepresentation. A lot of these black dads he's speaking about who's not in the house, these guys are responsible for damn near all the single homes. So it turned out there's some stats that a lot of single mothers, they typically get pregnant by the same guy. Like the average foundation Black American don't have kids, never had kids. Some more, there's a nice significant portion that are virgins, never had sex before. So like they continue to push this lie that like black men just walk away from families and just don't have the connection like with their kids. No. So to beat that up, they usually count households where they're married or they live together, like common law marriage. But they don't consider the black dads who are broken up with the mom but still take care of their kids financially, still go out with them, go to the game, take them out, when they can see them, maybe 3 days on, 2 days off, or 3 days on, 4 days off. I don't know how they would do it. But also joint custody, weekend custody. These dads, I think there's a stat that shows that Foundation Black American dads that split up with the mom, they reach out and take care of their kids more than any other dad. So just again, white supremacist talking points.
Argument that comes into just more like concrete questions. Where do you draw the line? Who defines it? And also, why would you tax, for example, somebody like me? My ancestors fought on the Union side of the Civil War. So I got to go pay more money, even though my ancestors did the right thing. No offense if you guys fought for the Confederacy. That's not trying to, drum up any, it's all good. We're all Americans now.
Yeah. Look how the coon look how the suspected coon or suspected terrorist out there just giggling and caca and kiki.
I'm not. Why should I have to then go pay for something that my ancestors did correctly? Finally, it's like, how do you prove it? Prove it. Like, this is not your argument, but it's a hilarious contradiction. The very same people who tell you that voter ID is racist want all of a sudden Black America to prove that they're the descendants of slaves 7 generations ago. Like, let me go get my paperwork together. I thought it's racist to ask people for their paperwork. Anyway, the whole thing's crazy. But here's the more important.
Dude, you're not smart. You don't even sound like you're smart. Like, he's not even those Ben Shapiro type guys that can just, or Jared Taylor that can like come off and appear to be smart. This guy isn't smart and literally sounds dumb. He doesn't even sound like he's smart.
Thing that I think we can agree on, that we should have a opportunity colorblind compact. We need to have school choice in this country so kids can go to better schools and have more mobility. Number 2, reconstitute the Black family. And finally, this is one that you might agree on because you're not a liberal, is that we need to no longer import foreigners that are going to undercut the wages of workers of all races, especially Black Americans.
I agree.
Okay, I agree. All right, so let's move on. Here we go. Now, another student, Black student. I don't know what he is, FBA or immigrant. I don't know.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Malcolm, and I guess my question to you today is, when did systemic racism end, and what is your definition of systemic racism?
Systemic racism is a law on the books that prohibits an individual from doing something based on their race. It largely ended with the Equal Rights Amendment and the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s.
Okay, and so do you
heard
think
him? He said it ended, and look how fast he said it and took his water.
that it just ended right? End, and what is your definition of systemic racism?
Systemic racism is largely ended with the Equal Rights Amendment and the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s.
Okay, and so
Civil Rights Movement, Civil Rights Act 1960, it ended systemic racism. This guy's a nut. But listen, family, they will walk around with that lie on their chest and act like, and don't be ashamed of it. They are not ashamed.
So do you think that it just ended right then and there, and there's no lingering effects of that could, kind of explain some of the disparities we see today?
If the hypothesis of lingering intergenerational 60-plus year effects are true, then you must tell me how Jews have done so materially well post-Holocaust, despite everything being taken from them.
Okay, so now these guys are the biggest anti-Semites ever, right? So now he's trying to pin the Jewish community against us. The Jewish people suffered a great suffer as well. So now he's trying to compare us to them so we can minimize what they went through. And this is a slick tactic to avoid talking about reparations. Because the dude asked a good question. Say, hey man, when did systemic racism end? Like, what's the date? So now he mentions the Jewish people, and he ain't gonna stop. He's gonna keep going.
Well, I don't think that's a one-to-one.
You're right. Jews had it much worse than blacks.
Well,
I think Jews had it much worse than blacks. Family, don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. Listen, you want to be very sympathetic, okay? You want to trust me. You want to be very sympathetic. Hey, the Jews went through a hard time out there in Germany with the Nuremberg laws, and yeah, it's definitely similar to what we went through. Not the same because they weren't picking cotton. And we were not Holocaust. There was no mass genocide, right? So there's a big difference. Also, we're not going to point out that we were poor, okay? We were the labor force. The Jewish people were not the labor force, but they were rich. They were the rich upper elite class in Germany, okay? So we are really two different. We're apples and oranges. That's a horrible comparison, false equivalence.
That also
have Black Americans ever had a crazy fanatical dictator trying to kill half their population in a span of 5 years?
We have been enslaved.
So he's still comparing.
That's not the question. I'm saying, I'm saying Jews actually had it far worse than Black Americans did in the 1930s and 40s. Way worse.
But do we have to look at?
I keep saying way worse when Jewish people, although they went through some hell, how long did it last? Our way worse happened for 400 years. So I don't know how you compare a few years, 10, 20, 15 years to 400 and say somebody had it way worse.
Jews as how we should.
I don't recall Jewish people having descendants, and those descendants had to face Nuremberg laws. I recall the Jewish people who were being targeted were alive. Okay, and a lot of them got to see Germany fall. A lot of those folks alive got to see that was alive and maintained life, got to see Hitler die.
People should.
No, I'm saying you have to prove the argument that it applies to other groups. So your argument is that things pass down through generations, right? That there's aftershocks, there's a ripple effect. We discount that as very minimal at best. So you have to show me another minority group that has suffered that it held them back.
So
but he has to show them another minority group. Well, you just did. You just mentioned the Jewish people. What about the South Africans? Huh? What about apartheid? See, dude just be hoping you don't know what you're talking about.
People to have, well, for the 60 plus, like disparity to be true, you have to see that in another group.
Well, yeah, because then it's a rule, right? So the rule should apply to other groups that had other types of suffering.
But the way black people are treated in America isn't the same as any other group.
Well, I mean, exactly. Asians were put in internment camps actually in the 1930s and 40s.
Well, yeah, they were.
So here you go, comparing us to Asians who got reparations, and America acknowledged they were wrong. They were wrong, and they wronged them.
And Jews came with no money in the 40s or 50s after.
And that hurt their community.
That's a goddamn lie. When the Jews got reparations from Germany, they had a lot of their possessions back, and it came with a bag, bro.
Right, but then they were able to overcome it. So how is it that Asians are super wealthy now?
They were put in internment camps and then let out of camps.
Yeah, but for 2 or 3 years, some Asians and Chinese and Japanese were in internment camps with no ability to own property, run business. I mean, it was terrible. Every group has gone through some period or form of...
And how long did that last? Again, did it pass down to generations? Did it pass down to descendants? So stop saying people did something worse than us or experienced something worse than us when whatever happened to them in their lifetime, and it ended in their lifetime. What happened to us, it did not end in our lifetime. It carried on through the descendants. 400 years
of suffering. And let me ask you a question. Do you think that the material bad status of Black America right now has anything to do with decisions that Black Americans have made?
I think that while it may have, that might be part of the reason, I think that there has been a push for Black Americans to make that choice.
I don't understand.
I would say, like, take the war on drugs, for example. I would think that that is a way that Black and white people were using, drugs at similar rates, but Black people were punished for it more severely and given longer sentences.
Okay,
because of their family. Hold on.
Well,
so
it is.
It's based on income, not based on race. But again,
but those are pretty much the same thing.
Again, I always find the war on drugs argument so laughable. You don't want to go to jail for doing cocaine, don't do cocaine. Like, I don't understand the argument. Like, it's not that hard.
Okay, like, look at this.
It's not complex stuff, right? It's as if, like, wait, so the argument is that a bunch of Black people were doing cocaine and they caught us and we're the problem.
Well, they were given longer sentences than white people.
Again,
even though white people
hotly and highly debated, but it still is.
Okay, so when you dismiss mass incarceration, when you dismiss the harsher or the sentencing disparities, when you dismiss that, go back over there. When you dismiss the dispensing disparities, like, we can't take you serious, because in that case, you would have to dismiss school to prison pipeline, because it's the same logic. It's the same thing. Penalizing people over other people, harsher, because of their skin, because of not just skin tone. Skin tone is definitely a measure, but not just that, but because they are foundational Black Americans. So it's not only because of that, but that's definitely one of the main things. And like I said, skin is also one of the main things, but not exclusive to skin. Okay, but that slave legacy definitely has more to do with the harsher sentencing and the harsher penalties in school with the students through via school to prison pipeline. Yeah, so once you deny one, you definitely deny the other.
It's not.
Well, again,
I've heard it from a lot of sources.
If you distill it down based on the quality of attorney they had, based on their income level, it just so happens a lot of Black Americans had a lower income level.
Well, you gotta think, why is that though? And I think
right,
there's a reason that's the case.
And just so we're
I think
clear,
that's a systemic reason.
The war on drugs was insanely popular with Black leaders back in the 1980s because Black communities were actually being ravaged by drugs. There's a reason why we launched it.
Well, why were they were put in there in the first place?
Yeah, okay, so, but he's not gonna explain this. This is what he cannot explain. So the 80s, yeah, drugs ran rapid. When the debate who put it there, we'll do that later. But it ran rapid. And you guys locked us up without no remorse. But guess what? 10 years later, the opioid war kicked in. You got crystal meth that kicked in. I mean, literally 10 in the 80s was crack. That was crack. The 90s was meth. And those folks didn't go to prison, Charlie Kirk. Those folks went to treatment centers, and all of a sudden the media looked at them differently. They didn't demonize them. They said, oh, look at this thug, look at this drug dealer. They were not called that. It was called substance abusers. Look at this person who just needs treatment, just need a intervention, family just need to show support. They were represented totally different in 100% a different direction than us in the media, okay? So this guy is weak. Most white races are really dumb. They're bad at like logics. They're bad at reasoning, and they're bad at being witty.
Oh, so the government like put a bunch of cocaine in the inner city?
Into the inner cities. That's true.
No.
I believe that is true.
That's not true.
Well, you don't have to. Well, you can move on from that.
It's okay, but let's try to find some common ground because I don't want this to be overly combative.
Okay, I would agree. Yeah.
Would you prefer a country that prioritizes race or one that prioritizes merit?
Tired of government-run, overpriced healthcare plans? It's time to take.
Okay, hold on. Let me just turn down one device. I'm getting a double echo. Give me a second.
Control.
So again, just to go back to it, I can give you another example. Cubans came here with nothing. Any Cubans in the audience? Nothing, right? Nothing.
Okay, he's lying. Well, no, he's right about that. The Cubans was led over here. A lot of criminal class was led over here. I'm sure some who were not of the criminal class was led over here. And yes, they came here with nothing, but then they received something. See, like, again, he's staging, cherry picking debates with that he believes. Go back over there. Don't go back to my laptop. He ain't broke both my laptops. He ain't breaking this one. Okay. So he staged these debates amongst high school kids. And these are grown adults that's like well versed on their bullshit and rhetoric. So they staged these debates with liberal college kids that's like really don't care. They're not that sharp. Like they know what they're saying is right, but they're not witty. They don't have. They are witty, but they're not witty on this topic. Okay, but they're not bad either. Like they're not dumb, but they're not well versed on comebacks. So this dude just be saying stupid stuff.
Okay, so again, just to go back to it,
Yeah. So Cubans, they might have came here with nothing, but when they got here, they received a whole lot of something, okay? And welfare was there, either federal or state. They got housing, they got food stamps, they got SNAP. Some of them got TANF. Yes, they did. Oh, yes, they did. They came here with nothing and they got something. We came here with nothing and we got nothing. Okay, that's the big difference. And that doesn't work on people like myself.
I'll give you another example. Cubans came here with nothing. Any Cubans in the audience? Nothing.
right? Nothing, right? Am I right? Nothing. Because of Castro. Like the poorest people ever to come to America would be Cubans. They're incredibly wealthy per capita now.
And my fault, family, coming late. You know, when I go late, I just could not go live earlier. It's going to happen again tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm not going to be able to go live early. Hopefully, I'm back on track going forward. Hopefully, Sunday, Monday, I'm back on track going forward. But right now, tomorrow, I got an appointment tomorrow, so that's not going to happen.
How does it keep on happening with every other group, but Black America is like seemingly always held back?
Well, I think you also have to look at, there are Cubans who move here with wealth. It's the ones who are rich enough to move.
Okay, again,
at least a lot of them are.
Again,
and I think that even the ones who do come here, you know, with nothing, which a lot do.
But you have to, so in order for your hypothesis to be true, it needs to bear out with one other group. So there have been, what?
Wait, what do you think my hypothesis is?
Your hypothesis is one of intergenerational struggle, that what has happened 60 years ago has direct impact to the material well-being of what happens today. We reject that premise.
So you have. He's talking about 60 years ago. What are you talking about 60 years ago? We reject that premise. We who? A bunch of white racist, stupid racists, and dumb FBA coon conservatives, and a bunch of tethered conservatives, and some Latino ones out there.
History affects the president?
Not nearly as much as you think it does, actually. Well, we believe that you are.
He is literally a white, and I say so. Majestic says, and no government attacked their community. Actually, immigrants have no excuse why they fail. Exactly. And white folks got the least excuse to fail. So when you see a white homeless person out there, you're looking at a shameful human being. Pinky says, and most of those Cubans that came were criminals, and they were still given everything. Right. And Majestic, I like that point, Majestic, about the government didn't outright attack them. They didn't sabotage them. They didn't undermine them, like we read about Tunis Campbell. Tunis Campbell was a wealthy black man during Black Reconstruction, and the KKK literally just took his stuff and killed his generational wealth. All the wealth he had went nowhere. Okay, can you show me the immigrant community that was thriving or doing fair, and white supremacists just came and burned it down, or did urban renewal or eminent domain, or said somebody touched a white woman and used that to burn everything down, steal things out of there? Can you show me the denial of loans that they were getting since they got here? Can you show me the redlining charts that affected Cubans exclusively, nobody else? Can you show me the color only signs that only affected Cubans, the white only signs? Yeah, stop, man. That doesn't work.
You're most importantly a consequence of your agency and your actions. Most importantly. And yes, there are historical implications that impact you. Of course they do. But to just say something that happened not in your lifetime and not even in all of your dad's lifetime.
Well, it happened in my grandmother's lifetime. Right. And it affected how my dad grew up. And it affected how, you know, what he had to do to get where he is, and for me to do what I did to get here.
Okay, but you got to break that down though.
Well, do you want me to explain like my whole family's history of how we?
Not necessarily, no. But at some point you have to say, despite all the bad stuff happening to us, we still could have made good choices and we would have flourished.
Well, I think you can make good choices. And
this guy said we still could make good choices and flourish. Dude, when you literally sabotage, or look at Detroit, when you take all the jobs out, you know, and then, leave it there, and then again, add some liquor stores there. Like, so those bad choices is now being heightened. People are going to self-medicate. And my boy, that's a fact. When people start to face depression, oppression, they look to self-medicate.
I think that you should also help people make good choices, because I don't see why we shouldn't.
No, we should help people make good choices. Okay. Do you know why? That's why we should get rid of DEI, which actually...
It's actually really disgusting. So allow me to start to rebuttal, okay? I got you. I got you. It is disgusting. And there's some other things I'm gonna play that's disgusting. All right. I had to stop it. But let me rebuttal. Okay. First of all, before I rebuttal, let me just talk about let me talk about white slaveholders who began breeding because you know Charlie Kirk keep going back 60 years. Say, nah, dude, let's keep going back. Okay. So white slaveholders who began breeding us, right, in the United States, largely they start to breed us. Why? Largely because the international transatlantic slave trade was banned. It was banned in 1808. Okay, and they wanted to maintain and grow their enslaved labor force without having to import more Africans facing, criminal justice. All right. So what happened? So the 1808 slave trade ban happened. That's what happened. Hold on. My thing be freezing. So in 1808, Congress passed a law banning the importation of enslaved blacks into the United States. This was due to a combination of international pressure, changing public opinion, and growing fears of black-led slave rebellions like Haiti. However, slavery itself remained legal, just not the importation of new slaves from Africa. All right. So this created a problem for plantation owners. How could they continue expanding their labor force if they couldn't import more black folks? So obviously, the solution was breeding blacks. Instead of buying enslaved people from overseas, white slaveholders turned to forced reproduction of enslaved people already in the U.S. So enslaved women were valued for their ability to produce children who would also become enslaved, legally considered property of the slaveholder from birth. Some enslaved women were raped by their owners or forced to breed with selected enslaved men to increase the plantation stock. Okay, that's called selective breeding. And as a result, they built some of the strongest, wittiest, most beautiful, bravest blacks, uh, humans in the world. Children began being born into slavery. Okay, they were automatically the property of the slave owner, making this a profitable investment. So this type of breeding, this slave breeding, this selective breeding, the systemic practice of forcing enslaved people to reproduce in order to create more enslaved laborers. This happened to nobody else besides foundational Black Americans. All right, this what helped create our ethnogenesis. Why was it profitable? Enslaved people became multi-generational investments. After 1808, the value of each enslaved person skyrocketed because no new ones were coming from Africa. So scarcity. In the Upper South, e.g., Virginia, Maryland, where slavery was declining agriculturally, many plantation owners made money by selling enslaved people to the Deep South, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, where cotton was booming. You heard that phraseology? The Deep South. And it said Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. So stop talking about Florida. Yes, that's the South. It's not the Deep South, man. But I don't expect y'all to know that verbiage. Okay, so that led to mass internal slave trading within the U.S. Family separations, as enslaved people were sold down the river. They go your family structure. You're so concerned about the fathers not being home. An entire industry built on the production and sale of human beings. So between 1808 and 1860, Charlie Kirk was at 52 years, the U.S. enslaved population grew from about 1.2 million to nearly 4 million. Damn, that's 4 times. Not by importation, but by birth and forced reproduction, which we know today as eugenics. the value of enslaved people exceeded that all of U.S. railroads and banks combined by 1860. Enslaved Black bodies became the single most vulnerable asset in America, turning the South into an economic powerhouse built on human trafficking. The psychological impact: enslaved women were treated like breeding stock rather than human beings. And Charlie Kirk says, so what? Nobody's getting compensated for this. Many children were taken from mothers and sold. So not just the dad wasn't home, dude, neither was the mama. There are documented cases of enslaved women forced to have 10 or more children just to increase their owner's wealth. Wow. The trauma is generational, Charlie Kirk. These practices have distinct lineage to current systemic issues, including wealth gaps and family separations. So yes, white people began breeding slaves intentionally as a replacement for the banned transatlantic slave trade. It wasn't accidental. It was calculated, brutal, and fully legal under American law until slavery's abolition in 1865. It was one of the darkest truths of American history. Human beings were turned into capital-producing machines, and even after slavery ended, the structures that were built on this cruelty continue to shape racial inequality today, Charlie Kirk. And you think we're not getting a dime? Dude, you just nuts. Okay, so what about the claim? Remember, what about the claim Charlie Kirk kept making to justify not sending that check over here? Got a new message in the chat. So didn't have to be here running wild. It's a waste of time talking to the devil. Nah, you're 100% right. It actually is. Okay. But I'm talking to you guys, though. I'm talking to you guys. I do these lives to talk to you. I already know I'm not getting through none of them guys, right? None of them. I'm not getting through none of them, even the black ones. I'm not getting through them either. So, but I like to have those conversations in front of you guys. So it's a learning opportunity, right? It's a learning moment. So, Charlie Kirk, he said the party that was injured is dead. So no living descendants are owed anything. All right. So, but Charlie, intergenerational harm is real, my boy. You might deny it as a white supremacist, that's what you do. But the damage caused by slavery didn't stop in 1865, my boy. After slavery, foundation Black Americans were subjected to Jim Crow laws, redlining, convict leasing, lynching, educational exclusion, mass incarceration, and ongoing discrimination, all state sanctioned or legally tolerated. Wealth was stolen and not returned. Slavery created generational wealth for white families, and that wealth was not shared or redistributed. Okay, the descendants of enslaved people were deliberately excluded from programs like the GI Bill, Homestead Act, FHA loans, and more, like the HOLC, like the FHA. We got that. That they came up with zoning laws and restricted laws to keep us out of home ownership. So it gets ugly. Legal precedent exists. So the U.S. has paid reparations before to Japanese Americans, as Charlie articulated, in turn during World War II, and to Native American tribes. Descendants can and do receive compensation from their. Hold on. Gotta stop the share 1 second. It's freezing. I hate when that happens. That's so annoying. Okay, let me go back. All right, skip. Okay. So descendants can and do receive compensation for inherited harm. Okay, it's called intergenerational harm. So if descendants can inherit wealth, then they can also inherit debt or compensation for theft labor, and equity. What about the second claim? Charlie Kirk's ancestors fought for the Union to free us. He doesn't owe anything. Okay, well, listen, bro. We know that the actual fact is the Union didn't go to war to free Foundation Black Americans. It was to preserve the Union. Lincoln said himself that if he could preserve the Union without freeing a single slave, he would. Most Union soldiers were abolitionists. Many of them were drafted, and a large number of them held racist views themselves. Some northern states like Illinois, Indiana had black codes preventing black people from even entering whites-only states. What's that? Okay, so no one's asking you to personally pay Charlie Kirk. Nobody's saying, Charlie Kirk, go in your pocket and give me some of what's in there. Give me what's in your wallet, dude. What's your bank account number? Nobody's doing that, my boy. Reparations are about state accountability, not individual guilt, boy. Many families gain economic security through land grants, Social Security, and FHA loans that were denied to Foundation Black Americans, and those benefits built generational wealth for white families. Okay, if your family reaped the rewards of a system built on anti-Black racism, you don't get a pass, okay, because someone wore blue in the 1860s. All right, here we go, Charlie. So immigrants just got here. Remember, he said immigrants, they just got here yesterday. That's not fair that they have to pay, they get taxed. Well, immigrants benefit from systemic racism too, which we've been telling you guys, including housing markets, education systems, and job structures built on the marginalization of Foundation Black Americans. The America they migrated to was built by unpaid Foundation Black American labor and made powerful through Black disenfranchisement. No one says immigrants personally owe Foundation Black Americans. We don't ever say that. But if they live here, pay taxes, and benefit from American society, their taxes support all government obligations, including defense, infrastructure, and potential reparations. So you don't get to live in a house built by unpaid workers and then complain about helping fix the broken plumbing. So white people have already received reparations. Slave owners were compensated for lost property in Washington, D.C. in 1862, if y'all don't recall that one. Whites GI Bill, receiving housing, land, and education through government policy. FBA veterans were laughed at and denied. Black Americans pay taxes too, right? We pay taxes too, and have done so while being excluded from the very benefits those taxes fund, such as Foundation Black Americans have 1/10 of the wealth as whites. Home ownership, wages, healthcare, access, and education are all systemically impacted by the past and present racism. Okay, so Charlie, listen. Reparations are not about guilt, bro. Okay, they're about justice, repair, and restitution for centuries of stolen labor, stolen land, and denied opportunity. This isn't ancient history. It was generational theft that continued to shape the economy today. Okay, so that's it on that right there. All right, so now let's have some fun. Let me see the chat. Chat, any questions? Y'all rocking? Cool. Let's have some fun with revenue. This is Line Dog.
We foundational Black Americans made this country livable for non-white immigrants. Revenue,
Wait, matter of fact, I think I might save one for tomorrow. I said I had an appointment. Let me see what else I got in the queue. So yeah, we are definitely bring that out. Yeah, so family, I think that, oh, damn. Okay, I'll do the Camron tomorrow. Um, you guys, as you guys know, when I go late, I don't like to stay up late. I don't like to do a live late. I understand folks got things to do, like myself. And 7:30. Sometimes I might go 8 o'clock, but usually when it's 8 is usually a terrible live. Cause the energy just ain't there like it is in the morning. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna continue tomorrow with Camera. Okay, and then revenue. We gonna have some fun. We're gonna chop it up. All right. So just make sure you like the video. That's all. Thank you. Let me see everybody, buddy. Yeah. Jesse, everybody who's leading the chat, let me give didn't have to be here running that wild. Let me give him a wrench. He looks like he's with the lineage. So family, check out this, this video is cool as hell. Watch it, rewind it. And I'm out, man. I need to get some sleep. Peace.